Okay, super. Hello. Can folks see me and hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, cool. I see a bunch of pictures. I don't see any video of faces. Maybe that's okay. Well, hello. Okay, getting some thumbs up. Awesome. Hi, my name is Mike Naylor. I'm a friend of Brian Winkle's from way back, and I'm living in Norway now. So you can see it's pretty dark here right now, and excited to share with you with some of my work. I'm a mathematician. I'm a math artist, and I'm currently a puzzle designer and maker. And I'm going to share with you today a pattern, a single pattern from mathematics that has inspired a ton of my work. Let's see how this works. Okay, cool. So we're going to begin today with a puzzle. This was a puzzle I learned about from Martin Gardner, like 40 years ago. And that has inspired a lot of the work that, that I've been doing today. The puzzle is the Towers of Hanoi. And it usually looks something like this. It's a stack of discs that sits on 3 pins. I have I made a little tower right here, a demonstration model. And so instead of discs, I have a whole bunch of blocks here. Let me adjust the screen a little more. And the idea of the puzzle is to move the stack of discs, or blocks in this case, from its starting position to one of the other 2 positions. But you can only move 1 block at a time, and you can never place a larger block on top of a smaller block. And the puzzle is, if you've never tried this, it's a pretty fun puzzle to do, and it's full of lots of interesting patterns. And usually if I'm giving a talk or a workshop, we have folks work on this. But I'm gonna ruin the puzzle for you here and show you the solution. And then we're going to talk about how this goes to places. Okay, so the pattern goes like this. I've got a number 1 through 5. It goes 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 2, 1, 4, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 2, 1, 5. 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 2, 1, 4, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 2, 1. And there it is. With a stack of 5, it takes 31 moves. And let's take a look at those moves here. Now, okay, there's the moves. And if you look at those numbers in there, you can maybe see a bunch of patterns already. I'll put them into some groups here. And there's some pretty patterns in there repeating already. And one thing I like to do when I get a pattern is I begin to try to represent it in different ways. And you can learn a lot about a pattern, about mathematics, by representing the idea in a bunch of different ways. So one of the first things I tried was I said, well, what if we make those as lengths instead of numbers? We'll switch numbers to lengths here and begin to see some shapes in here. You can see a bunch of triangles. And I thought, ooh, that's kind of like mountains and maybe some trees. This could maybe be a nice landscape. And something about this pattern looked really familiar. This is the pattern on an English ruler. And here's that entire solution to the puzzle that we just saw in the space of 2 inches. If we rotate that same pattern sideways, we get like a playoff tree. Well, probably something you've seen before. Rotate it again. Okay, and we get something that's like an actual tree. We redraw that with some nice patterns in there. We get this beautiful binary fractal tree. And this is a pattern that we find all over the place in nature. Here's another place in nature we find it. Like each of us has two parents, and each of our parents have two parents, and they each have two parents, and so on backwards through time. So in some sense, we are, all of us, a part of this pattern where we are the stem and it stretches backwards in time till, till whenever. This inspired me to make a picture. This is built on that idea that we each have two parents and we're all parts of these trees. And this pattern goes back on and on for a long time. That's called family tree. Also, you can think of this, I think it's kind of fun to think about this, this pattern like all of the decisions that we make in life. So imagine you're going along and you need to make a decision. At that point that you make a decision, the universe splits into two copies that are nearly identical, but depending on what that decision is, you could end up in two really different places. And this, I thought this would be a cool idea for a poem. So I made a poem that has this same structure. And the poem is called Decision Tree. You start at the trunk of this and you work your way up. I'm going to turn this sideways to make it a little bit easier to read. So you start here in the middle. Should I do it? Should I not? And then there's your decision. I shouldn't do it, so I thought, or I went and did it anyways. And the next stage is your reaction to that decision. And the stage after that is how that affects you in the future. Let's try a couple of these. Should I do it? Should I not? I went and did it anyway. Now I'm full of guilty thoughts. It wasn't worth it, I would say. Well, that's kind of depressing. Let's try a different one. Should I do it? Should I not? I shouldn't do it, so I thought. Now the chance has slipped away. I guess I'm doomed to live this way. And that's kind of depressing too. In fact, a lot of these are depressing. And I think it's because I added this extra structure into it, that in the upwards direction is kind of good. It's like an angel and devil on your shoulder kind of thing. And the downwards direction is like bad, what a bad person would think. And so what becomes interesting is that there's some of these poems are quite, you get the feeling that the narrator really knows what he or she wants from life. And one of those is, should I do it? Should I not? I shouldn't do it. So I thought, I'll do what I know is right and keep my conscience clear and bright. Yeah, that's a nice one. But there's another one in here that the narrator is equally sure of his or herself. Yeah, it's this one right here. Should I do it? Should I not? I went and did it anyways. I just hope I don't get caught. They didn't catch me yesterday. And so maybe that doesn't have much to say about morality, but I think it has something to say about consistency, that in life, like in mathematics, you are free to make your own rules and live by your own rules. But you should be consistent with those rules or you can risk being unhappy. Oh, there's a little philosophical thing we can learn from math that came out of this pattern. This pattern shows up in a whole bunch of places. It's in the Cantor set, it's in the Sierpinski triangle, it's in the Menger sponge. You can find it in the Mandelbrot set if you zoom in on the nose there. It's in Gray code, it's in Pascal's triangle, it's in hypercubes, it's in just a whole bunch of places. We don't have time to look at these, but we could talk all day about like any one of these ideas. And I encourage you to explore these if you haven't looked at them. There's some really beautiful and cool ideas in there. But since we're going to be talking about it, let's give this pattern a name. Instead of 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 2, 1, 4, etc., let's switch out the 1s for A's and the 2s for B's, and the 3s for C's, and so on. And then this becomes a word pattern. We get abacaba, dabacaba. And so we'll call this the abacaba pattern. A way you can think about making this pattern is you start with the letter A, and then you have just two simple rules. Double what you have to get, and put the next letter of the alphabet in the middle. So our next step is ABBA. Now repeat that rule. Double everything you've got and put the next letter of the alphabet in the middle. So the third step is abacaba. Next step, abacaba, dabacaba. Do it again, and you get abacaba, dabacaba, yabacaba, dabacaba. Now, boy, normally in a group of people, we would all try reading these together. I guess most of you have your microphones off, but anyways, go ahead and read it aloud. Anyways, even though we can't hear you, because it gets to be really fun to say. Okay, ready? Let's read this one. Abacaba, dabacaba, yabacaba, dabacaba. Did you read it, Mark? You're the only one I see on video here.
Yeah, abacaba, dabacaba, abacaba, dabacaba.
Awesome. Okay. Because you're live, you get to be my victim here. Okay,
That's
you ready?
All right.
Ready to say this one together? Okay, here we go. Ready? And all of you, the rest of you too, say it along. You can click on your microphone if you want. We can have a whole chorus with this. Go ahead and join in. Ready? Here we go. Abacaba,
dabacaba,
dabacaba,
yabacaba, dabacaba, fabacaba, dabacaba, yabacaba, dabacaba.
Awesome, super, Mark. Okay, so this would be the next one then. Okay, abacaba, dabacaba, yabacaba, dabacaba, fabacaba, dabacaba, yabacaba, dabacaba, gabacaba, dabacaba, yabacaba, dabacaba, fabacaba, dabacaba, yabacaba, dabacaba. And we're only at the 7th step right now. And here's the one if we take it to the next step, and then to the next step with the I in the middle. And this thing just gets ridiculously long, ridiculously quickly. I mean, it's an exponential function, right? It's doubling each time. So this thing goes on and on and on. And by the time you get to Z, this word has over 67 million letters in it, which if you're going to try to say that, if you're trying to say it nonstop, it would probably take you, I think I worked out there like 777 days to say the whole thing. And then imagine if you tried to print this up. Well, I did that. I actually printed this word. It took 4 volumes of standard, well, A4 size is what we use here. Each one was over 400 pages thick, and it was printed in 4-point font. So the pages looked like this. It simultaneously set 2 world's records. It set the world's record for the longest published word, and then it also set a world's record for the world's most boring book. So if you like, I've got online, you can download this page from the book, and actually I guarantee really 1 page is enough. But I thought this was a cool idea, the idea of having this word that sounds very magical, sounds a little bit like abacadabra, but it's just ridiculously impossible to say. So this inspired a children's story. I wrote a story called Maggie and the Abacaba Genies, where this young girl finds this bottle on the beach with the name of a genie, and she has to call forth genies with longer and longer names until she gets to the genie who lives at the letter Z. So that was fun. Also, when I see these A's, B's, and C's floating around, it makes me think of musical notes. So what would this pattern sound like if you were to play it on a piano? So I've written a song. I've got this download available too. If you want to try to play this on piano, it's pretty incredibly fun to play. And I'm going to play it for you here. I took it up on video so you don't have to hear me make a mistake at my piano at home. And here is what the abacaba pattern sounds like. Okay, so that had a few little extra notes put in some bass, and we turned it upside down a little bit and played around with that theme. But here it is, just yeah, playing with the pattern a little bit more. Now, this pattern is so structured, I thought, wow, could we get a machine to play that same song? So here's a device that I built last year, and this has steel balls that roll down through a very simple gate mechanism that land on a xylophone and play that abacaba pattern. Let's see this in action here. So the balls go up the elevator, and then they go through these gates. And if those gates, you think of the bits with zeros and ones, this thing is actually counting in binary from 0 to 127. So in a sense, this abacaba song, this is actually the music of binary numbers. And there is a really, really strong connection between this and binary. You're probably all very familiar with binary, but normally we write numbers in base 10. So we have a ones, tens, and hundreds place. So 375 is really 3 hundreds, 7 tens, and 5 ones. And in binary, instead, it's based on powers of 2. So I have ones place, 2s, 4s, 8s, 16, etc. So we're at 1011. We really mean 18, 104s, 12, and 11. And here's the binary numbers from 1 to 16 written on a list. And these patterns in here are just amazing, and they're all connected to this abacaba pattern. For example, here's one thing we could do. We could connect the first one that you come to in each of the numbers. And do you see the shape of those mountains there? That's the abacaba pattern right there. That's the same thing on a ruler. That's the same as those mountains that we saw earlier. Or we could say, let's see, to move from 0 to 1, there's a 1-bit change, and then it's a 2-bit change to the next, then 1-bit change, then 3-bit change, and etc. You count the number of bits that change from one number to the next. There it is, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 2, 1, 4, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 2, 1, 5, and so on. There's the music right there in the numbers. Okay, let's see what else we can play with then. Like I said before, the more ways you can represent a pattern, the more things you can find. So here's the digits. What if we do something as simple as like coloring all the ones black? You get this geometric pattern here. And if you tip your head a little bit sideways and squint your eyes, maybe you can see a tree in there. There's that fractal tree again that we saw. The binary tree, it's right there in binary numbers. I wanted that to be a little more symmetrical, so I said, well, what if I put 2 copies of that together? And then, do you see what I see in there? Yeah, of course you do. It's a bunch of fish. Yeah, so there it is, some fish swimming in some reeds, and it's a pair of fish, of course. So this must be Pisces, and so this became a digital print that I created some years ago, like ghost fish and regular fish, and it's called Pisces, which is the zodiac sign with 2 fish. So that seemed really appropriate for binary. And here we can see the binary numbers from 0 to 15 wrapping around. And I wrote this name a little funny there. The Pisces looks a little funny because this has a nice up-down relationship in it. So you can actually turn that name upside down and it reads the same way upside down. Okay, here's another binary related idea. There's something called gray code, where if you don't want to switch 1 bit, then 2 bit, then 1 bit, then 3 bits, is there a way that you can reorganize the integers so that you're only shifting 1 bit and at a time? And yeah, there's a bunch of ways to do it. This is probably the most elegant way right here. We switch the bit in position 1, then the bit in position 2, then the bit in position 3, 1, 2, 1, 4. We use this abacaba pattern again to shift bits, and we get a reordering of the integers. 0, 1, 3, 2, 6, 7, 5, 4, 12, 13, 15, 14, 10, 11, 9, 8, 24. And it catches them all, and it never repeats any of the integers, and it's a whole new ordering for that. Well, I became pretty fascinated with the gray code and said, well, what kind of patterns can we find in that? How about if we color in the ones on this? What does it look like? And look at that. There's that fractal tree again, but this one is all connected a little bit differently. Let's zoom out and you can see, yep, that is definitely the binary tree that we saw before. Here we're going to wrap that binary tree around in a circle and we get this neat little rotary pattern right here. Now, this is something that is, this is actually something that's useful. This is something that's used. What's kind of cool, we can draw this line through it right here. And this crosses all the white spaces. So we'll call that 0. If we rotate the line just a little bit, catches just a bit of the black on that outer edge. See that? We could say this is a binary number from going from the middle to the outside edge. Shift one more place and we get this one. 1, 1 on the end, then 1, 0, then 1, 1, 0, then 1, 1, 1. And this is all the numbers in gray code wrapped around the circle and we can read them off in a line. And if we can do that, then we could put like an optical encoder on here that reads those positions. And as this disk spins around, we generate all these different binary numbers in this order. And what's really nice about this, if you're going to build some kind of optical sensor, and here's some pictures of this in use, if you're reading a direction, you're only shifting one bit at a time. So if you have an error, it's a very small error. It's between two places that you know where they are, instead of if they were written in binary and the computer was reading them off as it was changing positions, you get a really, really wrong reading. So this is a very, very reliable system, and it uses this gray code, which is full of the Abba-Kappa pattern. Here's playing with this a little bit. I thought, what does that look like if we connect those all together? Let's take the integers and let's loop them around in order. And here's the gray code pattern. And you get this beautiful Abba-Kappa pattern. You can see how this is related to those triangles from earlier. And flip it upside down, maybe it looks like the tree again. But I think that was just a really lovely pattern there. Okay, if you want to get a little bit crazy and travel to some other dimensions, we could think, let's say we're on this one-dimensional line segment and you're somewhere on the line segment and you want to visit all the points and not get lost. Well, you just have to move in direction A. And we call that left, right, if you want to. And if you're on a square and you want to visit all the points, no matter where you start, if you travel A, B, A, you will visit all of the corners. And be sure that you find your home some way. If you're on a cube, we'll add a third direction for 3D, front and back, and start wherever you want and go A, B, A, C, A, B, A. Abba-Kappa will take you around to all the corners. And hypercube, you've probably already figured that out by now, but we add another direction, the D direction here to have 4D. And no matter where you start, A, B, A, C, A, B, A, D, A, B, A, C, A, B, A will visit all of the corners without repeating anywhere. All right, if we're going to travel to another world now, let's make another world. Here's some lengths, 1, 2, 4, 8. And let's fill these up. Let's count with using these blocks instead. So here's 1. And then we'll make one with length 2 with those blocks. To get length 3, we'll need a 1 and a 2. And then here's a 4. To get 5, we'll need a 1 and a 4, and so on. And we'll keep building these with blocks. And we get another really lovely pattern here. And if we call the smallest, do you see it's all turned into squares now by counting in binary. And we call the smallest squares A, and the next biggest one's B, and the next bigger one's C, and so on. Then if we were to walk up this staircase, the blocks that we step on would spell this Abba-Kappa pattern as we go up. But I played with that idea a little bit. Here is it extended out. And you know, I like symmetry, I said before. So I put together 4 copies of that. And with this gray, it really began to look 3D. I became really fascinated with this shape. Like, oh, what would this be like in 3D? Here's a digital print that I made of that. That was earlier. And I began making I began some 3D models of this. Here's a paper clipping model. Here's another version right here. I've got some instructions and templates online if you want to try to make one of these. It's a lot easier than it looks, and they're really fun, and you can try variations and make some cool stuff with them. I began building them out of wood, and then began doing some computer. This is about 20 years ago, so this was pretty great graphics for 20 years ago. And I thought that here it is, totally symmetric in 3D. I thought, wow, it's starting to look like a planet, right? But it needs water. So I flooded this and got this really cool looking planet. And I really wanted to go visit this planet. I wanted to walk around. So I began making some digital landscapes of this planet to get a feeling. What would it be like to be on this planet and walking around? And this ended up inspiring a fantasy novel called Abacabax. There you can see the mountain. It takes place on this world. Can you see me in a video on the screen while I'm talking, or do you see just my? Yeah. Mark, do you see me or just the? Oh, okay. Neil Jodies gives a thumbs up and says yes, you've got it. Okay, so
yeah.
Okay, this became a fantasy novel. Brian told me it was okay if I share this with you. This is brand new. This is just released in December, and it's something that a novel I began working on 20 years ago when I first had this Abacaba pattern, and thought, wow, this is a cool place. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. It's available on Amazon. It's full of monsters and magic, people who do magic by doing mathematics, and it's full of patterns and lots of connections to the Abacaba pattern. And something that's a little bit different too is there's 4 families in here in a class system. You have the lowest class reckons on their fingers, then you have people who reckon on human hand bones, and then you have the abacus, which is the stone tablets, and then the highest class is the abacus. And the book has appendixes on the end that teach you how to use all of these systems in here, and some of them are historical and some that I've made myself. And coming out, I'm working on this right now, so this will be released soon. There's going to be an accompaniment text full of activities, puzzles, games, knot tying, paper projects, music, rhythm, and that's all going to be free because I want people to like play with the ideas. And part of the idea of the book was to get people excited about mathematics. So anyway, so you've just seen how this one pattern can inspire art, music, poetry, sculpture, landscape, architecture, and literature. So just think, what might other patterns inspire you to create? So anyways, I'm Mike Naylor. I've got a bunch of resources out there. If you go to abacaba.org, you can find out a lot about this planet and get a lot of about this pattern. And you can download music and projects and activities and see some videos and stuff. And you can read more about my book at abacabax.com. It's the Abacaba with an X on the end because the pattern goes to the X. Well, yeah, you can find out all about that. But okay, great. Well, thank you very much.